data analytics with Power BI. We are incredibly lucky to be joined by our guest speaker, Roman. He's going to take us on an exclusive deep dive into these log files. Roman will demonstrate how to extract and decode this data using Microsoft Fabric and how to turn it into compelling, actionable visual insights using Power BI. Whether you are a 3D printing enthusiast or data professional, he will show you exactly how to optimize your printing processes through data-driven decisions. Roman, thank you very, very much for being here today and taking the time to share your expertise with our community. We are very excited to learn from you. Now the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Yvonne. Thanks, George, for hosting the event. So we are in the smaller rounds of users. Let's see if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask at any time at the chat, or we have a short Q&A session afterwards dedicated, but basically as it's a small round. Let's see how many people will check the recording afterwards. But nevertheless, yeah, the topic is 3D printer logs and from the hidden data to Power BI insights. So what's the 3D printer? What is actually telling you? So if the first thing, if anyone can, not this very small round, but if anyone has do something with 3D printing, anyone, like, feel free to raise your hand or ping in the chat. It seems like no one. Anyone does something with data, like with Power BI at least, or any other topic. I want. Good. Well, I think the rest is also just interested in the topic and curious what's going on. But yeah, this session, first of all, will be quite beginner friendly. If you haven't done much with 3D printing, it will be like a nice intro, I think. I wish I had such kind of overview before. I was doing it like on the private basis. And the same year for the Power BI, for the analytics, there is also quite straightforward, small notebook, and then a short demo how to read the data, which is available in the log files that 3D printer is collecting. So basically, every print that whenever you are doing some printing and any kind of equipment, the most common is the bamboo lab, so-called. There will be a short intro about the different types of the printers later on, but it collects thousands and thousands of rolls of data. And somehow I had a free time, and I was curious what this data is about, and I was looking for the ways to export it, and then that's how I created this session. So let's see. We will decrypt, analyze, and visualize some results. So basically, the topic of who actually even cares about the log analytics, especially about 3D printing, because usually no one cares about the log files before some accident happens, because usually if everything goes well, no one even looks at the analytics, and I like to see it in this way. So basically, most of the people who are into 3D printing on the personal basis, they would never look at the log files, because why they should do it. But combine it with the professional interest, and then like being a data engineer, I think it's quite nice to get some insights and to see what's going on. As soon as there's a way to see that there is some log files that collect big amount of data, it's always interesting to see what the data is about. And it's differentiation between regular enthusiast with the data engineer. Some words about myself. So my name is Roman. I'm a data engineer at Allianz Global Investors. I like everything related to data, and I have a couple of certifications. I have a Microsoft certified Fabric analytics engineer, Databricks certified data engineer, originally from Ukraine, and hands-on hobbies, as you can guess from the topic of the session, is the 3D printing, but I also do drone building, and those hobbies combine quite often together because while flying the drones, quite often they crash, and 3D printing technology helps a lot to recover drones while not spending that much money on that. I'm based in Frankfurt am Main in Germany. Enough words about myself. So what are we going to cover here? First of all, we're going to talk why it matters, why it's important to see and what was my personal discovery during analyzing this data. Then the possible options for the data extractions and how to get use of this data, because it's not that straightforward. Then I will show some short demo how I did the analysis of the data when it was extracted with Power BI Fabric notebooks, and could be used any tool, but the point is to get some visual implementation of what was the output. And then, of course, we have some Q&A session afterwards. If you have any questions, feel free to ask anytime, as it's nice to have like a conversation, not a monologue. But yeah, about the 3D printing, some overviews I checked in the open data available. You can see the market size comparison between different industries. Of course, 3D printing is not that big. It's like cloud computing, AI, machine learning, or even electric vehicles. But you can see the dynamic that it's quite a strong growth. And there is a projected growth rate between 16 to 23.5% every year. So it means that it's actually faster than the electric vehicles. So it's quite, I would say it's kind of a new technology, but it's widely used in many industries. And it has a very big potential, what you can do with it. And it's also not only on the private use, there are a lot of industries also using the 3D print technology. So you could see size by different components. Of course, the base for it, that base is the hardware itself. And of course, its hardware cannot work without the software and the services on top. And it's the distribution in the amount of the billions of dollars that is projection in the industry, that there are all the forecasts say that it's gonna only grow, and there is every point of time there is a big implementation in the different industries. Of course, that the biggest adoption currently is the industrial printing. There are many industries where they're used. It's possible, of course, it was a big improvement, especially was Bumble Lab introduced that like a desktop 3D printing system. So before, let's say like 5-10 years back, it was impossible to think about that you're gonna get like a small machine that like could fit on your desk, where you can do without much input, where you can, or effort, where you can do prints just out of the box. But now it's all possible and it's all accessible. So in the range of, let's say, less than 300, 500 euro or dollar, you can get a working product. That's why you can already start printing. That's why it becomes very cheap, becomes very accessible, and can order the regular 3D printing machine on Amazon, and then you can already start experimenting. Of course, the more your needs grow, then you need maybe more advanced machines. But for the usual like a user, it's good enough, like a starting level printer that you can already start experimenting, understand the idea, understand the software that you can use to do your own prints, so you can use already the prints that are provided by marketplace, and then you can reuse the projects that other people create. So the community is also growing. You can also see some geographical distribution, that it's very common in the North America and the largest markets. And then there is a fast growing market in Asia, of course. And yeah, you can see the Europe is a bit behind, but all in all, it depends on the region you live, and that depends on your area of interest. And there are more and more different industries are getting into 3D printing because of the of the direct benefit. So like some examples. So for example, automotive industry is using a lot of 3D printing system in the prototyping because it's much easier and cheaper to do lightweight parts. For example, such companies like Ford, BMW, and Motorsports, they use a lot of 3D printing types because it's much cheaper to do it that way than to test something on the ready products or something that is coming directly from production. So 3D printing is a very important part of automotive industry, also healthcare, and it's important to understand that it's fastest growing industry. So there are a lot of custom implants, surgical models, 130 hospitals versus 3 in 2010. So like you can see that there's definitely a lot of implementation in the 3D printing. And aerospace, of course, there is big growth expected that engine parts and NASA rockets are using the industry because, again, it's cheap, it becomes more robust, it's easy to reuse and then reprint the different parts, and then it's very accessible even to the user without much technical knowledge. Another one, which is I personally find very important, is the marine life and environmental conservation. You can see there is a lot of improvement, and there is a big interest in the industry and what they're basically doing. So it's kind of a sad story, of course, that because again, not really doesn't sound that great idea to put like plastic into the ocean and to protect the marine life, but that becomes necessary because the real like a coral reefs, they are dying, and then it's possible to print this version of the like in the plastic version of that, which doesn't sound that exciting, but then wildlife can adopt to it, and then they build their life in their houses like around us, plastic coral reefs, and then they can keep reusing it. So this way, yeah, maybe it doesn't sound that exciting, but there is a big adoption, and then actually in life it looks quite promising. And
nice solution we found as humans.
Well, yes, first destroy,
yeah.
then
and then replace with plastic.
Replace with plastic. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that's the sad reality. But as soon as there is implementation and it really works, well, yeah, maybe it's not ideal, but like intermediate solution. And yeah, of course, it's not. Yeah, as soon as it's under control, and yeah, actually it works in both ways, because most of this plastic that is used in the ocean is like reusable. So they're kind of reusing what was already there. Otherwise, it will go to waste. Plus, it creates like a living environment for the marine species. So it's quite yeah, the good projects, and there are a lot of projects are going on currently because the topic is quite urgent. Yeah, I need to do something with that. So another sector is the consumer goods. A lot of famous brands such as Adidas, Nike, or even Dior, they invest in the 3D printing technology because they understand that it's if it's possible to produce the products that they're doing with like such technology becomes much cheaper, and then it's again, yeah, you can kind of substitute the manual labor with that, but yeah, it becomes yeah, like of course the quality could improve, and then it becomes much cheaper, and then yeah, depends on the different models, but there are like different models of shoes, and like if for Dior, for example, they use I think the custom models what they're using for the fashion shows. They are building like that, like it's like a maquette for their product. So it's not the real product, but what could be potentially used. And then when you experiment with some different models, you might think, okay, would it be successful or not? And then you can experiment with 3D printing models instead of spending a lot of time trying to build something like in the real way. And then you can easily adjust if you think, okay, not sure if it's going to be success or not. You can adjust it on software and then see how it looks in reality. So that's what I meant about this 3D printing in marine biology, how it looks like. Yeah, it doesn't look that ugly actually. Yeah, those corals, if you don't maybe touch them, well, you should not touch them. But if the plastic ones, if you see them in the ocean, they might not even be that different from the original ones. So of course, with different colors, different parts, it's more like a Lego. But yeah, that's how it looks. And yeah, so that's the idea. Another thing, what is quite interesting, you could see that there is a real bridge in Amsterdam, which is built completely out of, it's like a metal construction, but completely 3D printing model. And it's a live bridge. Everyone who's around Amsterdam can go and have a look and even walk. So you can see that's a quite interesting design, and it's interesting solution. So it's also like a lot of an architecture.
Plastic coral leaves, to be honest. I mean, unless the tree next to it is also plastic, 3D printed tree.
Yeah, the tree, I hope it's a real one still, but yeah, the bridge at least. The trees, I think it would be difficult to substitute, but one day maybe. So this one is also a cool project. You could see that the bird, the toucan, it became a victim of illegal animal trafficking and lost its beak. So, and then due to 3D technology, he was able to get a substitute. So they built this beak for him, and yeah, and then yeah, basically this bird got the second chance to eat and survive. So instead of being fed manually, like with a special tube, so there is yeah, this bird could function. So maybe it doesn't look that pretty. I'm not sure how the other birds accept it, but I think it's much better to be able to recover. And this way, it's also possible to help protect nature and fix the real world problems. There is a YouTube video how they did it. I think there was the whole like a documentary about this bird, but yeah, it works in Brazil. It also helps. I think such kind of news, such kind of use cases. It helps to raise awareness about the problem of animal trafficking in such countries, and it's also the more attention, then people understand the scale of the problem. And yeah, there are some use cases. Of course, there are more, but I highlighted the ones I personally find interesting. And you could see some company market share dynamics about the 3D printing. So if people ask me, okay, if they want to start, how much they need to invest? And you could see like it's actually not that much. So that's entry level consumer market. It's like 2,500. It's honestly way less. So I think my first 3D printer I bought, it was like maybe in the amount of 500, and I bought already not the cheapest. So it was 500 euro, and I got it delivered to my house. I assembled it. Took me maybe like half an hour. It's very easy to. It's basically all already done. You just need to put some details together. You don't need to do any high technical like it's really easy. There is like a YouTube, you can watch how to do it. It doesn't need much input, so it's very easy to put all the things together, and then it's like plug and play setup, because you can connect it with your phone, you can connect with your laptop, and it does automatic updates, and basically it's very simple, and it's quite easy to monitor how the prints are going, and then you don't need, in most of the cases, you don't need even to just design your own prints, because there is a marketplace where in 99% of the cases, everything was already designed, and then you just can reuse what was already provided in the community. And then there are like a rating system, so you can see already the feedbacks. If someone was satisfied with the prints, then of course the project gets like a 5-star, and then you can see if there are more people using it, then you can be sure that it's gonna work quite well. You can see also that quite, of course, the key market dynamics, there is a quite strong Chinese dominance. So the Bambu Lab 3D printers that I use there, we have mostly Chinese vendors, and there is it's a big influence, and it's quite a strong market share. You could see 26%, and there is a very high industry growth expected. Why? Because it's very easy to use. So it's probably the most easiest setup anyone can ever imagine, and it just works. And then there is a good customer support. If someone has any issues, it works quite well. So you could see some Bambu Labs in information. So I'm not working for them, or I don't have any affiliates. I'm just very happy user, and that's why I'm happy to share this information. And yeah, you can see there is for Q4 2023, nearly 1 million entry-level printers were shipped around the 3D printing industry. So it's quite a big number. Another funny part, that the CEO of this company, he was studying actually in Germany, and he's a former DJI Mavic Pro product manager. So you could see he was studying in Bremen, and very talented guy. So he is into the engineering apparently, and then he founded this company, which is doing quite well currently on the market. And yes, so basically, why to understand that there is a big use of the 3D printer itself. Of course, different implementation, everyone can find the use case for them, but why to analyze the logs? Well, there are some obvious answers. So it can help to optimize the quality of the prints and ensure the prints reliability, and that to monitor what other metrics are going on, because very often I think it's kind of a downside of this printing journey, because quite often you need to reprint, and you're creating the waste, and you can get a bit frustrated that why it's not working before you set up do some settings. But seeing the logs, it kind of helps to understand what happens behind the scene, what kind of metrics are, and it helps to understand the settings, and it helps to optimize the quality of the printing experience, and to make it efficient as possible. The time efficiency, of course, if you optimize the quality, if you spend less time on the reprinting the same parts, it's decrease the time that you spend on the prints in general, and then you have more time for designing new models or looking for the new projects instead of doing the same things again and again. And then it's easier to spot if there are some errors. So, for example, preventive maintenance, you can see the metrics, see what is the potential downtime, what is the potential use case for the error, and then you can prevent it before it happens. And then as this time and quality, of course, it's all coming with the costs. the more time you spend, then the more filament you spend on the reprinting, then you minimize the material waste, and of course, it's you save some money with that. Sustainability, because of course, yeah, the waste of the prints and waste of materials, it's also not great for the environment. And another thing, as soon as you are just using the product as it is, a personal opinion, yeah, of course, it's great to get some insights in the hobby, but as soon as you go a bit deeper, then you can also think, yeah, about your career advancement opportunities, because there is a lot of place for the 3D printing on the market. And as soon as you're not just the user, but you know what's going on behind the scenes, then you can discuss about what the logs are, what your printer is collecting, how it's really does this thing, so it can help to get a bit better in what you're already doing, or maybe think about the new career opportunities. So what the logs are, how does it look? So basically every print, so this particular printer, but I think like all of them, they have this SG slot. So every print collects multiple data data files. So of course there is some cache data as always. Then there are images of the projects that you are doing. IPCAM is the important one because it's kind of, there is a web camera in the printer that is doing the recording of the every print, what's going on. It helps to troubleshoot if there is any issue. Then it's possible to see the whole video process of the printing, can help you to identify what's going on. Then there are some log information, time lapse of the printing system and the model, like in the format of the project doing. So if you go open a bit deeper how it looks like the cache, you could see there are different projects that was printing, and then you could see it's in the different format. So it is basically cache information, and it's not that readable, doesn't give much info. Image, okay, straightforward. Whatever you're printing, there is a short image of your project, how it's supposed to look, and then you can compare how it looks in reality. This one, what I mentioned, that's quite interesting, this IPCAM time lapse. As you can see, I did a screenshot, and then I think, and this one is actually not from my house, but I found it on the web. But you can see it depends how you put your 3D printer. You could see like basically some part of your house. So maybe better know where your camera is located, then you don't share such kind of information with whoever is gonna read those logs afterwards. But it's good to know where at least the camera is located, and then you can decide, do you want to do this recording or not? And then yeah, you can see that's how it looks. But that's to get a feeling which kind of video it does, which kind of recording. This one is the important logging files. So this is we're gonna discover what is there behind. So as you could see, it has some special log formats, which is not that actually openable by itself. Why you cannot just go and see what is there? Because there is encryption in place. So the encryption, there's a special format, but to compare, it's like a military grade encryption, which has some rotating keys, and it's all connected with the firmware. So it does updates, monthly updates. There's encryption keys are changing the protocol, and changing with every firmware release. So this way, and it's also different in different regions. So different schemas. So this way, in this case, the Bumble app does quite good job in the encrypting data. And whenever I think I made a request, official request to Bumble app, if they could provide me at least some decrypted version of my own logs, they say that basically they will not do it, because if I have any issues, I can send them log files, then they can decrypt them, and they can see what was going on in case there was some error or some issues. But they are not providing such information. They are kind of locking this information that I don't see what they could see afterwards, and of course that they are not. I'm not breaking something even in my own prints. So that's why it's not that straightforward to see those files. And then, as I mentioned, if you go to this, try to open them, that's how they look like. So it's not really readable format. But there is always a solution. If there is a problem, there are people who find a way to unlock those files, and there is a way. And it's called like there is a like it's a private project, and it's called X1 Plus. So it's open source custom firmware that's distributed for Bamboo Lab X1 series. So it works only on the X1 in this case. And what it does, it allows basically, it gives different options what you can do. You can you have more settings in your setup. But what is very important, that is allows you to decrypt those log files, and then you will be able to get like a CSV human readable format of the log files in this case. So what is important, they are not affiliated with Bamboo Labs, and yeah, they have nothing to do with each other. So that's why there is a disclaimer on the GitHub repository. If you install it, very important to understand the risks. So because as soon as you have it installed, then you lose like a warranty. So there is no any official support on that. So in case something happens with your printer, then of course you need to do it to deal with it on your own. Then of course you need to decide if you really want to do it. But yeah, that's basically the setup, how it can potentially looks like. So the printer itself, then you need to run it through this software, so the firmware, and then you get those readable files. Then it's still in the human readable format. Can show later on how it looks like, but then it's still not like a perfectly structured data. But as soon as it's readable with Microsoft Fabric, it's possible to get a proper data frame out of it, or it's possible also to store it on SharePoint and do this transformation even in Power BI. But yeah, let's assume it's much easier to do it the proper ETL process, to follow like a good practice and do it in this case in Fabric notebooks, and then you can get used of like a proper data frame, let's say for the visualization. Even it's possible to do it in the Fabric itself, but like as we are talking about Power BI, to have some fancy visualization, it's possible to do it in the Power BI desktop. And then, of course, yeah, if someone wants to share this information, it's possible to do it within the Power BI service. And yeah, for anyone who really likes to have Excel afterwards, this option is available, but not really highly recommendable. So the demo, as I promised, the demo, let's see how it looks like. Let's see a couple of files. So that's the sample of the log files. As I mentioned, that is that's how it's gonna look like in the SD card. Let's see if it's gonna open. And let's see. Okay, so there is this. You could see in the. Oh yeah, that's how it looks like. So it's not really readable. So that's what you get. But as soon as you run this through this software, then it becomes more readable. And let's see how it looks like afterwards. So then you become like you will be able to read it. Still not the perfect data frame, but you can already see the structure. There will be some time frame. There will be some software information. You can see like a temperature and so on. So this is already readable. So let's say I work with the CSV file, which I get as an output, and then I'm able to load it to the Microsoft Fabric notebook, and then I do some ingestion. So of course, I'm not writing the script my own. I took advantage of the Copilot to structure the data, then do the renaming how I want it. So to give me some date information. Of course, if there is some monthly data or like different date, the timestamps, then printer ID, in this case, there is only one log file, so it will be the same. So then you get the system information, some category, and you can, of course, rename that way to do like some script. And then I was able to bring the data to this format that is already looks like something readable for any analytics tool like a Power BI. You could see that's already becomes here like interesting. You can see what is spent on which category. So every milliseconds of the print shows the consumption of the data. So something goes for the memory, for the processing, the analysis of the performance, and so on. So then you get like some metrics of the CPU used, and then you can see different metrics. So it's possible. You could see it's possible here to read through all this data. It's also possible to do, as I mentioned, some visualization within Fabric itself. Of course, it gives this option. You could see some, for example, percentage of the errors which were happening, then some warning notification, system notification. And yes, of course, with Copilot, it can provide a lot of overviews. But as I mentioned, let's do a bit more advanced stuff in the Power BI itself. So it's quite straightforward how to connect it as soon as it's in the lakehouse. So we go to the get data and then select the lakehouse. And that's where my output from the notebook is stored. And that's how it actually looks like. Show as an example. I already, of course, have it preloaded. Just the way of visualizing the data. You could see Power BI allows to do also preview of the data itself and which format. So if I, let's say, I'm not really happy with the format, if there is no perfect split between the columns, I can still do like a split by delimiter or rename different columns in the Power Query itself. But let's say, in this case, I was kind of happy with the results and I was able to load it directly. But ideally, of course, with any Power BI project, it's better to transform data first and have a look in the Power Query how the data looks like. And after loading it to Power Query, then I was able to get like different metrics, what I really need, and then I could do the data model itself. But interesting thing here as well, that this visual, I was using the HTML content, so it's basically not like a GIF or something, so it's a HTML visual behind that could be used for the landing page. But let's see what I was able to get here. So I was able to see that primer source, if you could see here, primer source of the consuming the CPU, so the whole memory part that is being used while printing, it mostly goes on the camera recording and the so basically for the recording those logs itself. So that goes to the memory usage, but it's also there is a distribution. You can see it's for the temperature control. Then you can see some information for the recorder, network connection, because also the 3D printer is always connected to the Wi-Fi in order to get those updates for the model itself. And then you also needs to monitor if there are any issues. Then I get notification on my mobile phone that something is going wrong. Then I get such information as the material of type that I was using, of course, the different types of printing. So this ABS, it's more like a Lego format. This PLA, it's the most common printing system. So different types, but it's possible to see some log data, which kind of material I'm using. Then, of course, optimize different prints. And yes, the memory usage, of course, if some job was stopped, I could see what exactly caused that like overload of the memory consumption. But let's see, also important the temperature status to monitor, because there is optimized temperature is around like 60 degree, and is it safe? Yeah, from 58.5 to 65 limit. And then if I get the numbers, if I see that something stopped, and then the main board automatically throttles, for example, at 75 degree and shuts down at 85.5. So if it's, yeah, prevents the self-damage. Of course, it's if it's overheat, that there is no printing, so it stops automatically, and then it's gives notification, yeah, that there is some overheating going on due to some reason, and then it allows all the user of the printer to do those manual adjustments, or like wait for some time, and then it starts like working again after like half an hour when it's cooled down. Then it's also important to see that the system itself detects the critical CPU spikes, and also if there are some too much CPU usage due to some, like often if there are some errors, if it needs to do some manual adjustments, if it's like the filament, if it's filament stuck in the 3D printing, you got all this notification, and it all consumes the CPU, and it's all requires the 3D printer to like reboot or like do additional operations. So that's why you could see that the normal operation in this case, it was like at the beginning there was a steady, then it was growing, and then there was some emergency spike. I could see per print, I could see if there was some critical situation. So in this case, it was this one. So I'm not sure, yeah, what was happening there exactly. It's possible to investigate, but yeah, the print was doing well, and then there was some something happened, so there was a warning, and then yeah, there was some critical notification that I needed to restart my printer and the print again. And then of course, yeah, I could see the monitor the messages. So let's say, as I mentioned, yeah, the temperature is important, not overheat like a 60. And I could see, yeah, there was some cases I could also put the timestamp when there was the level at the 60%. Or if there is any particular error, I could also monitor what's going on, you know, what was happening in the each moment, the timestamp of here, the timestamp, and I could see at which particular period of time, which kind of error was happening. It helps me to monitor if there is, yeah, to discover what exactly the issue happening. And yeah, let's see a bit more overview of the information, because this is more like there are a lot of log files that you can build a report on, and depends on your need, of course. It's to show more the options, what is available. But there are also some other interesting log files that I discovered that the 3D printer collects, and that I was a bit surprised about it. But basically, because you are logging with your personal ID, so in order to log in and do the sprints, you need to have your unique identifier, and then of course it stores your unique user ID. Then there is a direct user link to your account, and then it's also stores the information about your network, so Wi-Fi, so your IP address, and it's basically the printer IP address. And this way, it's possible already like to locate you, like your personal. It's like more like a personal information. So if you share such kind of information with the like a log analytics data engineer team somewhere outside, so even within the Bumble Lab organization, there is a high risk, like if there is some sensitive prints that what you are doing, or even if not, but they would be able to locate exactly your location. Then they can also track your MAC tracking entry, so they could see the device, exactly what you are using, like for doing the, like you need like or your phone or your laptop to connect to do the print, so they could see exactly your device what you are using, and then they basically able to identify your location, and then they could also see which kind of prints you are doing. Of course, if it's something personal, then it's not like something public, then it's nothing secret there. But yeah, also need to see if there are important to see that there's no like sensitive API endpoints disclosed, cloud endpoints, and so on. So there is a lot of information to see, but it's possible what to do with it. Yes, because okay, we understand that there is a lot of information that you might not want to disclose, but what to do. And well, one easy way is to disable, so to enable actually LAN mode only. So this way it will lock out your account and disconnect from the Bumble app server. So in this way, this data will not be collected by Bumble app server, but by default is disabled. So it's this information here, Bumble app provides this at the knowledge sharing source, but by default it's off. So it's kind of recommended if someone is considered about their privacy to enable it, and then this way, yeah, that gives this kind of a secure level of security. However, then yeah, there are some difficulties. Then it cannot start prints remotely, so you need to be always on the same network, and if this feature is not enabled, I could start my prints even being at the office. I could select something. If my printer is connected, I could send this, and then my printer will start, or maybe resume some job if there is something ongoing. Then, of course, that Handy API is not available. That's what I meant. And then you need only to connect with your laptop. But Handy is very, like its mobile phone is very useful for doing the prints. That's why it's kind of would be downside to have it disabled. Print history and all this automatic updates also not gonna happen if you enable this. But this is one of the way to be a bit more secure, in this case, to enable this opportunity. To yeah, like sum up, of course, what is the point of all this log analytics if it really makes sense? Of course, there is a big benefits and opportunities, like you have more in-depth correlation analysis. You can compare like temperature, filament usage, there are no overheats happening. You can monitor the log files to see what really is going on, or you can prevent some data leakage in case there is something sensitive. And you can provide like a data-driven performance metrics for the personal use, or maybe if you want to share it with someone for some reason. So of course, there is definitely value proposition, and you can reduce material waste, improve your print quality, and so on. However, as you see, it's not that straightforward. So the biggest challenge, of course, who wants to install some additional software on the 3D printing model, because of course to lose the warranty and so on. But yeah, it's available, and it's an open source software that allows you to gives you more possibilities what you can do within the settings. But yeah, like then you become vulnerable from the open source architecture. And yeah, there is a community where they provide the support, of course, where you can ask some questions if something goes wrong, but it's not covering all the possible issues. And yeah, when it's possible, okay, as soon as you get this data, what is possible to do is I showed it's a bit more manual approach. You have this decrypted files, you can put them for the ETL process into the notebooks. But yeah, of course, there are frameworks like this, the Mosquito, for example. It's possible to automate it. So you can have it like IoT device that it collects this data and then it stores automatically to your like defined platform. And then you can, of course, automate all this reporting for some reason. So it's more like, I think, maybe for the live monitoring. So it's possible to get those data during the prints, then being processed and being visualized in something like a near real time, if it's of course necessary. So it's more like for the sensor metadata collection. I think there is no much use of it in the personal usage, but of course, if it's more like industrial wise, then it's has big potential. And yeah, of course, if someone decides to proceed, highly recommended to do it with something non-critical information for like some testing and to avoid any kind of risk, to provide some useful information. So there is this YouTube channel where they discover these pros and cons, and I think the guys, they develop this kind of, they're part of the jailbreak, the ones who develop this additional software to be able to read, and they discuss pros and cons and what else they discovered, more in details, more in the technical terms. If someone is interested, can have a look. They're also on Spotify. I personally like this book. If someone is into 3D printing, can highly recommend, because it gives a general overview what is the idea, how it actually works in very simple terms, and it's yeah, like available, you can order on Amazon, and it's quite a nice read about different materials, different types of like printers, and what is the basically the idea behind, some history of 3D printing. So it's a very simple source to get into the 3D printing. That's another interesting project. If someone is here around Frankfurt, that's basically in the Goethe University in Frankfurt. There is like a 3D printing research center. It's open like a workspace where everyone can come over. Of course, they have different opening hours. You can check on their website, and they have big 3D printing machines. If you really have some project and you are not sure how it's gonna work or not, there are students who are very enthusiastic about the 3D printing. You can come over and ping them, and then they are happy to help or with the design. So I think even they can print something for you. Not sure if there is any cost. Maybe you get some filaments and to cover the expense, whatever. But it's a very nice community where they very enthusiastic about the topic, and I think it's very nice way to get to know more, because yeah, it's like the more you learn about the topic, the more you discover that you actually have no idea what is the technology about. But yeah, it's a very nice community. And here, as I mentioned, that yeah, they can leave the feedback, or we can stay in touch. And if you have any comments, feel free to, we can discuss.
Thank you so much, Roman. That was a fantastic presentation. I think it was very interesting for everybody to get insights of which kind of data is logged. And it was absolutely fascinating to see how you can take raw encrypted logs and turn them into such a clear and valuable insight with Power BI. Really, really nice charts. I personally really appreciate also your examples of 3D printer use cases, especially the pic of the bird was very impressive for me, because I've never thought of such a use case. Maybe let's give a huge virtual round of applause, everybody, to Roman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
We have now time for some questions.
Well, I can. So when I saw that, I said, okay, I will buy a 3D printer to print stuff for my son. You know, he's asking all the time, can I have this and can I have that? And then maybe I can buy. But I think one of the difficult things would be to design them. If I want to design a little car or something for him, that would be the challenge. And the printer, if you have that, will do everything on its own. Is that correct then?
Basically, how it works, you, in most of the cases, like an easy example, if you want like a small toy, like a car, in 19, maybe of course you want the special car, will be a special project. There is, for that, there is a very user-friendly software. It's more like a Power BI drag and drop version. You don't need to do any advanced coding. You have your model, and then you can turn it, and then the only thing you need to test exactly how you need to position it, and then maybe do a couple of reprints to get what you really want to get. But it's super easy. But in 99% of the cases, and we are not only talking about toys, but many like kitchen devices, anything like devices for your table, anything what you see, basically what is printed would be already designed and it's within the marketplace, which is a free and open marketplace. And whenever I want to print, or even I think I have some idea, I go there and I type and it will be already there. So it's, I don't remember any case when it's, okay, maybe I wanted something very particular and then, yeah, I was mostly satisfied it was already there. And the big benefit that it has already reviews, if the project is success or not, if has already the feedbacks, and then people put the pictures of the printed output. So it maybe looks nice on the picture, but you have no idea what it's gonna look like on the like a ready product, and that's why it's already there. So the community is very big, and you can reuse what is already done. But of course, if you are into the modeling itself, if you want to design something, then you can do it. There is like a third-party software. There is already the Bamboo Lab software that allows you to do it all free, and then you can do it. And the cool part, why the community is actually very, why there are so many projects, because Bamboo Lab is also promoting this development, because the more popular your project is, then you get some, like they send you new filaments, you get some kind of like a bonus system. So if you develop something and then people are using it a lot, they are downloading it, then you get like a free stuff from them. So like it's appreciation from marketplace. That's why there are many people enthusiastic. But you can also see people print like very useless stuff. You could find any kind of stuff.
They are playing around.
Yes, that's why it could be you could end up with a lot of useless stuff in your home, at your home. So maybe not everyone will be happy about it, but yeah, that's the part of the learning journey.
What are you printing usually?
I use, as I mentioned, yeah, mostly use it for the drone parts. So I print some parts if something is getting broken. Of course, not everything is possible to print, but if there are some additional parts for the drone or for the table, or like, let's say I need a case for my AirPods, I could also print it. Then something useful, yeah, like on the wall, you know, there are these parts for there is in IKEA, there is this thing that you put on your wall, and then you can like hang, like if you have some instruments, and those parts where you can hang it on, then it's also easy printable. So all these tiny things that you think, okay, you know, very in the bathroom, yet you can put that where you put your shampoo and so on, and you can use those holders. It's also, yeah, quite printable. There's some widgets.
Yeah, maybe if something is breaking in a device, you just print it, reprint it, and repair it by yourself.
Yeah, that could be, yeah, that's a very good use case. Yeah. So it's, well, the creativity is the limit.
What's the average cost there? I mean, to print something, you know, I have a case for this, for example, how much would it cost?
For the phone, that's actually
just an example. Yeah.
It's quite, I would say it's quite cheap, because for the film, that's also, you know, you can always decide what you want to buy. There are cheaper options. If you, let's say, order something directly from China, then it becomes cheaper, but there are also many European filament production. And then let's say you get like one full, I think it's like a couple of kilo of this plastic, the filament, and would be like 20 euro. And then to print this case, how much? It's less than like what is like 50 grams. So then you can count 20 euro is 1 kilo, and then you need 50 grams. So it's basically nothing.
Yeah, it's very cheap then.
It's quite cheap, yeah. So that's yeah, usually it's not. Of course, maybe if you want to build like a house, then it becomes expensive, or the bridge.
Or a bridge, that bridge, yes. Yeah.
Then it becomes more expensive, but usually the small parts, it's not the price. But of course, different type of the filament, different quality. If you want to have it made in Europe, I think also it will be a bit more expensive, but also it's a very good quality. They have some production in Austria, And then I actually prefer to order these ones because I already know that it's not gonna break, because quite annoying part when you print something and then the filament part, the material breaks, then you need to stop the whole process and then they print it again, a lot of waste. And you better invest in the good quality material, then you're actually gonna save because you gonna use it for a longer time.
So I have something completely different. Before the session, I was really wondering how you could decrypt the logs of a printer. And now I'm really surprised that there is an open source tool which can do that, because I always thought that is absolutely decrypted and you have no chance. As you already said, there are algorithms and they are changing it. So I'm really surprised that there is something that is allowed to be used.
Well, they cannot prohibit it, I think. Well, it's kind of open source. It's there, and of course there are all the risks. And well, but it's important to understand it's not for all the models. There are some models that were able to break, and then it's not for all of them. And then such companies as BumbleUp, they're working a lot on this encryption process. And then it's you could see it's quite a strong encryption process. And then all my requests to them, even to send me my own log files, they always deny. And but I think people always find a way to find a workaround. And sooner or later, everything could be broken. But in this case, it's more like interesting to see which kind of data actually, because as soon as you don't know, then you might be not aware which kind of information you are sharing. It's more from the a privacy perspective, at least to see what is there, and then you decide you want to share or you don't want to share.
Yeah. All right. Roman, thank you once again for joining us, answering our questions, sharing your knowledge. I was very grateful to have you here today. And thank you everyone in the audience for joining us today. We hope that everybody learned something new today. So some more administrative topics. We always want to improve meetups. If you have any feedback, we appreciate if you just reach out to us. Also, if you couldn't join today's session, we recorded everything and we will we'll upload it in a channel and you can have a look again later on. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for hosting, and looking forward to see the recording. I'm not really big fan to do the recording and then to see the recording. That's why I'm happy to do it live, because then I don't need to record it, because otherwise it takes a lot of time. But it's good to see again, to improve and to see what is